The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Exploring the Unknown with Rebecca and Shay. Taking stories from today's news, Rebecca and Shay will explore everything from the paranormal, supernatural, the strange and unusual, unsolved mysteries, and more. Join them as they delve deep into the unknown and mysterious, taken from news headlines. Water cooler chat with a paranormal twist. Only on Paranormal Buzz Radio. Hey girl, how you doing?
Good, how are you, Shay?
I'm hanging in there. So, how are you filling your time these days?
Oh, well, I've been trying to clean house a little bit, see if I can uncover some things.
Fun.
Yeah, going through piles.
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. Good timing on our end because, you know, the new furniture came in, and so that took up a weekend.
Yeah, that's fun. I always like new furniture.
Yes, me too. Finally. In case anybody's wondering, the record date on this show is Tuesday, March 24th. Not sure when it will air, but Rebecca and I are safely staying at home these days until everything passes.
Yep, inside. Going crazy, bouncing off the walls.
Yes, stir crazy.
Yes.
I hear ya. So today we have two stories for you. They're both about seances and murder. The first one is another one that is very sadly disturbing and gives paranormal a very bad name. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, hit me with the first story.
Okay, so this one is called Sentences Handed Down in the John Doe Murder Cases. And if anybody would like to actually read these articles, we post the links for them in the Facebook group. So be sure to check them out if you want to actually read it yourself. But anyway, this one's from Dallas. I'm assuming Texas.
Oregon,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you get when you assume, isn't it?
That's right. I always make asses out of myself and everybody around me, so we're good.
Anyway, okay, so Andrew John Doe and Cindy Lou Beck, co-conspirators in the brutal murder of John Doe's parents last August, were sentenced in two separate hearings in Polk County Court today, Monday, September 19th. John Doe admitted to the crimes and pleaded guilty to 2 counts of aggravated murder in July in exchange for his testimony against Beck in a plea negotiation with the Polk County District Attorney's Office. In August, Beck pleaded no contest to 2 counts of a conspiracy to commit murder, also in a deal with the DA. John Doe was sentenced to 50 years in prison, as recommended in the plea negotiation. Beck received the recommended 20 years in prison for her role in the murders. On August 30th, 2010, John Doe rode his scooter from Salem to the farm of his parents, Scott and Marilyn John Doe. He lured his father out of the house with a phone call. When Scott John Doe exited the home, Andrew John Doe attacked and killed him with a steel pipe and scythe. John Doe then chased and killed Marilyn John Doe when she came out to see what was happening. Members of John Doe's family were present at the sentencings. They indicated the outcome was fair, but stressed Beck's crucial role and influence over Andrew. In a bizarre revelation, Polk County District Attorney Stan Butterfield said one of the tactics she used to manipulate Andrew was pretending to channel spirits. He said Beck was able to convince Andrew she was the voice of animal and woodland spirits who were telling her the John Does posed a threat to her children and he should kill them. We were so shocked that he could do this, said Jean Erickson, Andrew's grandmother. We couldn't comprehend it until we started hearing about her history. That's it.
This is another sad story.
this is really sad. And yeah, I am kind of disappointed she only got a 20-year sentence for that.
I am too, for multiple reasons, but what the article doesn't go into is at the time of the murder, they had been dating about a year, and he was a 20-year-old, sheltered, very sheltered, homeschooled his whole life, mommy's boy, some even said a little slow, and she was a 46-year-old woman that was very domineering over him, very controlling, had a criminal past for theft, and lost custody of both her children. So she knew what she was doing.
46 versus 20. Yeah, she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
That, and I think what really is concerning to us as paranormal investigators is the whole channeling spirits thing.
Yeah, she said she was a psychic. She went into trances during seances, would talk in tongue, said she could hear, as you said, animals. She could understand animals. I think she even used tarot cards. Like, and every message that she got was for him to kill the parents.
Yeah, that's messed up.
Right?
And that he would go follow through with it. That just...
Yes. I'm not saying he's not at fault, because he is. 20 years old, you know what you're doing.
He followed through with it. So...
Evil comes in many forms.
Right. And then, this is one of those reasons why when people tell you they're psychic and they're channeling, you should always, always try and, test them, and see,
something.
Don't just take them at their word, You need some kind of backup, some sort of test to see if they're actually channeling or if they're just making stuff up,
Yeah, because he was so gullible in his first relationship and had lost all connection with his family because he wouldn't stop seeing her, lost his job, they were about to be evicted, and he just fell hook, line, and sinker for everything she said.
Yeah. First relationships are like that, though.
Yeah. Again, he is responsible and he's where he belongs. I don't want to make it sound like I'm sticking up for him.
Well, no, because you have choices.
You do. Yeah, and if you can make a choice like that, that's saying something right there.
Yeah, he's obviously the one who rode his bicycle to his parents' house and then killed them, but...
Do you know what he killed them with?
The scythe, yeah.
A pipe and,
That's messed up, too.
That's personal.
Yeah. I mean, did he think he was deaf riding around on a bicycle?
Yeah. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Scary and sad all at the same time.
Yeah, it is, to think that you could be manipulated that far to do that to your parents, It's just sad.
And they were good parents. They were very religious, but they were very good parents, gave all three children everything they could.
Yeah.
Nobody had a bad word to say about them.
Yeah, it's just so sad that they would come to an end like that.
Yep. But again, this is why paranormal tends to get a bad rap in some communities, some religions, because of stuff like this.
Right, exactly. And, anytime anybody mentions that they're a psychic or they're channeling or something like that, I automatically have a red flag, because I'm like, you see too many cases like this where they're not actually channeling, they're manipulating and making stuff up. And so anytime somebody says that, I'm like, I always kind of get cautious.
I wish more people would be. That's not to say I don't believe in some psychics, but as we said, they're coming out of the woodwork.
They are coming out of the woodwork.
Mediums, psychics, it's like everywhere you turn.
Yeah, and I have met some really great psychics, really great mediums, who I believe really are channeling and really are, talking to spirits and stuff. But again, I have tested them and they've proven to be true. You know?
Yep. That's the only way to prove anything.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But then I've also met some that were full of baloney.
Oh, yeah. I think we all have.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You know, it's important to, you know, verify what they're telling you. You know, is it true? Is it something that you can verify, you know, and check on it? Because it's so easy to manipulate that situation because, you know, they could be making stuff up.
Just like this woman did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and it may not be, you know, talking you into killing your parents, but what are they talking you out of? I mean, if they're charging you for these psychic readings, you don't know. Yeah.
So if you're getting psychic readings, keep a notebook.
Yeah.
You know, if you choose to do it. I want to stress, I do know some that I truly believe in.
I do, and I know some that are really, really good that have picked up on some amazing stuff that I know to be true because I verified it, you know, through like just going through, you know, if they're telling you they're talking to a ghost or something, you can go through and verify that person exists or existed. I guess I should use past tense there.
And another thing I like to suggest is record the sessions. If a psychic says, no, you can't record it, red flag.
Right, exactly.
That's my opinion. That way you have absolute record of what they said and you can go back and check and remember what was said to verify whether stuff is true or not true.
Yeah, that's a good tip too.
All right, so story number 2. I wish I could say story number 2 was lighthearted, but of course, it's not as heavy as the first one, but it's more seances.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting.
All right, give me story number 2, Rebecca.
This one the article is called Stricker Mansion, A Tale of Seances and Murder. This one's Rock Creek. Article is from October 27th of 2015. Lucy Stryker took an axe, gave her husband 40 whacks. She dragged Herman's bloody body from their bedroom and down the staircase of their Victorian mansion. The staircase screamed bloody murder for decades, or so the story goes. Stricker Ranch has long been a hotspot for paranormal activity and research. The ranch grew up at the Rock Creek Stage Station, part of the Stagecoach King, Ben Holliday's stage route out of Kelton, Utah, and the first settlement in the Magic Valley. So it's natural that ghost stories and urban legends surround the 150-year-old site tucked away in a stand of trees along the old Oregon Trail. Over the years, visitors have reported seeing ghostly apparitions inside the home and lanterns swinging in the darkness near the old cemetery that sits a short distance to the west. But the craziest story of all centered around a stain on the staircase leading from the upstairs bedrooms to the parlor below. The stain, which was smeared down the staircase, sparked wild tales of conspiracy and murder. Herman Stryker, a German immigrant, purchased the Rock Creek store at the stage stop in 1877. The store was the first trading post between Fort Hall and Fort Boise on the Oregon Trail. Stryker later married Lucy Walgamot. Hope I'm saying that one right.
God bless you.
Yeah, right? And the two operated the store and saloon and rented out the rooms in their home. Lucy nursed to health many sick immigrants who passed by and buried those who didn't make it. For a decade before the Idaho State Historical Society took ownership of the site, the Stricker Mansion, built in 1900, sat empty. There were overgrown bushes in the yard and ivy had overtaken the home, said Stricker great-grandson Curtis Johnson. It was creepy. During that time, young thrill seekers would break into the old home through a back staircase to examine the blood stain on the stairs and hold seances. We had to take down the back staircase to keep them out, Johnson said. Herman died in his sleep, and without Lucy's help in 1920. He was 79 when he died, Johnson said. His death was peaceful and uneventful. Lucy, who was much younger than her husband, lived at the Victorian mansion for nearly 30 years after Herman passed. Lucy died in February of 1949 during the worst winter storm known to hit the Magic Valley. Her body was laid out in the parlor for 14 days until she could be buried, Johnson said. Their daughter, Gladys, lived in the home until the mid-70s. Since the state took over the site in 1984, caretakers have reported being startled by ghosts. Gary Guy, who has lived in the house for 6 years, overseeing the site for the Historical Society. Guy says Brittany, his Scottish Terrier, allures him to visits from a young girl wearing a long white dress. The girl never speaks but disappears into thin air as soon as he turns away. Others have seen the girl too, he said. The legend of Herman's murder is easily debunked because the couple's bedroom was not on the second floor of the mansion. Johnson got a good laugh out of the fictional tale, and so did his great-aunt Shirley Puckett. Lucy, Puckett told Johnson, would have loved it.
I would safely bet that this is one of these stories that urban legends, folklore, tales from the past brought on or created the paranormal activity rather than the other way around.
Well, yeah, I think the seances and stuff, attracted some paranormal activity there. And I like this one because they've debunked the original story. They've found out that the whole haunted history, quote unquote, haunted history of the home isn't true. And I find that a lot when, you get into some of these cases that all the stories that you hear don't have any basis in fact.
That's why research is very important.
It is. It is very important.
At least the family members seem to take it well as can be.
Yeah, I like the part that they think that she would have gotten such a kick out of it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It just shows you can't always believe what you hear about places.
Right, exactly.
So are you one to think that tulpas, do you believe in them? Do you think we can create paranormal activity by thinking it, by inducing it?
I don't know for sure if I believe in the whole Talpa creating the activity, but I think perhaps that we can attract activity. So, especially doing seances and paranormal investigations, I think we attract some activity by that.
Yep.
So if you're doing a lot of that in an area that you think is haunted, you could be attracting a spirit there.
How do you think a false narrative of a story like this that never happened, she never murdered her husband, do you think that can affect what kind of activity is attracted to that location? Or is it all in people's minds? Or a mixture of both?
Okay. Yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. I think not only does it attract a certain type of activity, but I think you're also looking for a certain type of activity. That you
exactly
see that activity so much that that's what you see, that you're not looking for anything else. That's why a lot of investigators don't want to know the story before they go in and investigate a location, because they don't want to be prejudiced about what they're looking for.
Exactly. I am one that does like to know and do research ahead of time. But I also debunk more than I keep. So
right. And I like to know too. Personally, I like to know first, or at least have a good idea of what I'm walking into. But then again, I like to take the time to sit there and try and debunk everything I've heard.
Me too. Many locations we've gone to, we'll go there thinking, okay, this is what people are claiming. And none of that happens, but boom, this other stuff that you cannot deny is going on.
Right, exactly.
So whether you do research or don't, I think it's a good idea to keep an open mind about everything and throw out whatever you don't think is good data.
Right, exactly. I think it's important to keep that open mind and not to limit yourself to the stories that you've been told about a location.
Yeah. In my opinion, it's not how much data you collect. It's quality over quantity.
Right. And then, too, if you're concentrated on that back staircase, you might...
What are you missing? Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to miss the little girl ghost that he's actually physically seen.
Mm-hmm.
So, you have to keep an open mind, and you have to explore the entire house and not just the one part that they're telling you is haunted. And it's about keeping an open mind.
Exactly.
For sure.
So you're pretty much saying you have to explore the unknown.
Exactly.
See? I get it. But I think that's the best bet. Just keep an open mind. And I always say I like having multiple things at the same time and try to back up each other. Multiple devices or EVP and seeing something with your own eyes or hearing something,
Right, exactly. Exactly. Having multiple pieces of equipment going at once so you can kind of have a backup to what you're doing. And yeah, I agree. I think it's important to just keep an open mind and you go beyond the stories that they're telling you.
Exactly. Keep it real.
Right. And then research the stories too. I mean,
before and after.
Before and after, because that axe murder story would be one that you could easily prove not true by researching.
Does the little nursery rhyme at the beginning remind you of any other famous axe murders?
That's exactly what I was thinking. It reminds me of Lizzie Borden.
Yep.
I wondered if maybe somebody didn't just like that story and decide they needed one in their town too.
Yeah. Maybe. It's hard saying not knowing, but that's pretty big coincidence.
Right? It is. But yeah, no, that again, like I said, that story is one that's easily debunked by going and looking at his obituary. You pull that one up pretty fast and you're like, no, he wasn't killed by an axe.
No, come on.
Right? I mean, even not being able to, you may or not know that bedroom was downstairs instead of upstairs, but you could easily prove, the death. Again, research. Don't believe what you're told.
That's right. Always. Find out for yourself. Seek out the truth and explore the unknown.
Right? Exactly.
There we go.
Exactly. But I wonder about that little girl ghost, Why do they have the little there?
Why is there no story on that? I want to hear about that.
Exactly. I want to do research on that.
Yep. Another easily debunked story. There we go.
Exactly.
So, all right, guys. Those are our 2 stories for this week. We hope you enjoyed them. Let us know what you thought of them.
And if you want to continue the conversation, find us on Facebook. Facebook group is Exploring the Unknown with Rebecca and Shay.
And remember, if you send us a story and we read it on air, we will give you a special shout out. Thank you, everybody.
Yep, thanks, guys.